Hey, are we on, Joan here?
Yeah, we did it.
So, good evening, everyone. I don't know who's in the chat tonight, but with me tonight on the show is Joanie. So this is Joan. Joan is from North Wales, and Joan is one of the newest official members of PCPW. I have to say official because, to be fair, Joan has been with us since the day we stepped foot on North Wales soil. And that's right, isn't it, Joan?
It is. I was so impressed, and I was so excited to hear you were coming up that day in Rhyl. It was a horrible day as well, wasn't it?
And we got there late.
It was cold, it was windy. I knew you were coming up, but I didn't know that much about you. And I was so excited when you actually arrived. I managed to hold the crowd back. It wasn't a massive crowd, was it? It was only like 15 people, but every person counts, don't they?
And so, that's it, Joan. Every person does count. That's right.
So that was my first introduction. I can't even remember when it was. Was it November of 2020? Around that time, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, just over a year.
Yes. So my commitment goes back all that time. And of course before, because we're all committed to looking after kids. You know, you don't have to even have children in order to feel that you've got some responsibility towards them. Because we've all been, that's one thing we all have in common. We've all been a child, haven't we?
Yeah, that's it. And the thing is, the window of childhood is so small. It's such a small window. But it shapes a huge part of your adult life as well. It's delicate, isn't it? It's delicate and it's precious.
Very much so. Very much
so. We ventured up to North Wales, guys. I got to be honest, it wasn't easy getting into North Wales because at that time there were some restrictions in place. There was new laws coming in with these fines and things like that for the COVID. So when I tried reaching out to people from North Wales on Facebook, I got to be honest, they were tight. They were very tight. They were giving nothing away. There was no names of organisers. They was giving nothing at all away. I couldn't speak to anyone. I was just told to come up. So we were pretty much stepping into the unknown. But we didn't give us a talk the other day. I was really nervous, Joan. You probably could sense that from me.
Not really, no.
No, didn't you?
No.
Oh, I was rather shy. That's why when everybody was saying to talk, I was like, oh, no, I won't now. But we'd only just started doing stuff like this. Because prior to this, see, Joan, the best way I can describe myself is probably the class clown. I am more for out there having fun. Do you know what I mean? You got more chance to see me standing on a table, chanting or singing, rather than standing on a stage speaking about something as serious as this. So it's been a big change for us. So to come up there then and have the welcome that we had from you guys, that gave us a buzz. Because that, for me, that was really special. It was from day one, and the girls will tell you, it was essential to unite South and North. Do you know what I mean? That was essential, and that was a priority from day one for me. But I was so glad, Joan, when we come up, the reception we've had, and from that day, there's been no looking back, is there?
No, there hasn't, and it just the momentum seems to be swelling.
Especially in the last 2 weeks, I'd say.
Very much so, yeah.
So just to give you guys an update now then, guys, things are really hotting up for us. We was in London on Tuesday, another one of the RSE conferences. It was a really good day. I should have put the speech on here, really. So I give a little bit of a speech, 7-minute speech. Wait a minute, let me just shout to my dogs, okay, and then I'll come back. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so we had gone to London. We gave a little speech. It's different there. They all know what it's about. There were other people talking. They were discussing aspects of the RSE from their perspective, from their organisation's perspective. So our job wasn't to deliver information that day. Our job was to go there and ask for unity, you know, to explain where we're at with our fight and ask them for unity moving forward. Because as it stands now, we're on 38 days to submit our paperwork to court. So that's where we're at now. And we went there pretty much with, you know, our mission was to ask these people to unite, to ask these people to follow our campaign, join our campaign, be the numbers that we need. Because we have 38 days to submit the paperwork to court. We've got to show that we can finance it as well. So it's not just putting the paperwork in now. We need to create awareness. Awareness is key here. People need to know what's going on first and foremost. They need the opportunity to contribute whichever way they want to or whichever way they can, whether that's through their skills, personal skills, organising events, contributing financially with their time. Everybody can do something here, but people can't do a single thing unless they know about it. So us as individuals, we've got to just inform people. We've got to strike up these conversations. Now, I've spent the week now since we come back from London pretty much begging. So messaging groups, gyms. And the first thing I've said to them is, beggars can't be choosers. I'm not here by choice. I'm here to beg. So this is where we're at. We got 38 days now to file our paperwork to court. We will be announcing the name of our barrister as well. He is pretty high profile. He cares. You know, but guys, the odds aren't in our favour for court. You know, we can only do so much. You know, we've done the formalities, but we need the manpower now. But Joan, you see now, like you've been with us from the start anyway, always been a huge support. And I've had, every time something happens behind the scenes, I try my best to let you know anyway. So you're more aware of the work that goes on than other people in general anyway. But since you've joined us now, Joan, and you're actually in the messenger groups, you see what goes on more now, and you're there in real time as things progress, as I'm trying to say. So how does it feel for you, Joan, now, and especially what's been going on the last 2 weeks? What's your perspective on it?
Well, I feel as if it's hopping, actually. You know, there's so much going on, and there seem to be so many windows of opportunity that have just come out of nowhere. Well, they haven't come out of nowhere. I suppose everyone's worked for them, you know. Yeah. But things seem to be falling into line in a very good way. Obviously, we've got no guarantees with this case, have we? Absolutely none. But even if it only raises public awareness, which is quite poor, really. Public awareness is quite poor, isn't it? I don't think people have got much perception of what's going on or where it could lead. I think they've all been led away by the flowery, sort of semi-academic literature that's around, you know, and the meaning of RSE and why it's important. I think everyone's been led away from the scent, really, you know. And the scent is rotten as far as I'm concerned.
Because the thing is, here, Joan, we're all, I suppose we're all scared of things we don't know. So if we're told that this is going to sexually safeguard our children, a lot of us in general, don't know what that entails. So we're not going to really look into that, and we're going to be like, oh, that is what we need. Yes, we'll have some of that. Without even understanding what the requirements of that is. You've just been told that this safeguards, but these people are not in a position to understand the requirements of that, you know. And I think as well, this is pretty much a similar story for the LGBT aspect of it. Well, you know, I've got a gay nephew. If I go against this and going against them, no, you're not, because this is not about the LGBT community. This is just a whitewash, a complete whitewash to bring in agendas, well, bring in dark agendas. There's no two ways about that. We've got the document to prove that, you know. So people need to understand, and as well, and I think people are in a position where they don't want to offend people, so they can't say, "Oh, I'm not too keen about that," you know. So they don't understand it enough to question it. They're not confident enough to question it, and I think that's what a big issue is, Joan. And I think people are so quick to accept an explanation, because an explanation is better than no explanation. You know, it doesn't matter how weak that is. If there's an explanation for it, then I think people are quick to accept that.
Especially if it's coming from officialdom that they've never thought in their lives to question. I mean, for example, I was giving out a leaflet in a school last year, outside a school, which went down like a lead balloon, mostly. But one lady that I offered a leaflet to, I said, would you like to know more about the sex education that's coming into the schools? And she said, no, not really. I trust my school. I trust my school. Well, I trust schools, but I don't necessarily trust you'd be silly to say you trust anyone, really. But as much as you can, I think it's good for us to have faith in schools, because I think most people that are there are trying to do a good job. They're trying to safeguard children the best way that they can. But in order to do this, I think you've got to have an immense amount of knowledge and understanding, and experience would help too, wouldn't it? Because every child is their own little world, and they've all got their own story to tell. They've all got their own problems, and some of them might be sexual. Yes. And you don't know who you might be triggering with some of the material that is proposed in these lessons. You don't know what the consequences might be. I think you're bringing in a poodle and you're actually unleashing a Rottweiler. Yes. Is what you're doing with RSE. Unfortunately, it's the potential for harm is massive, and teachers they haven't got the time to look into all this. I've been a teacher, not a career teacher, really. I did, I suppose I did more supply than anything else. But I know what the atmosphere is like in a schoolroom. I know what some of the impositions on teachers can be. And I know how burdened they feel, because things change all the time unnecessarily in the teaching world. So for this RSE, which is basically CSE, as we know, it's just another hurdle for them to jump over. It's something else that they've got to assimilate. It's more paperwork that they've got to do. And to be fair to them, they haven't got the time. And I doubt many of them will have the expertise to really handle this if and when it goes bad on them. You know, if they do have circumstances whereby a child might be triggered or whatever, you know. And also, I don't think any of them, very few of them, unless they were, you know, perverts in the cupboard, would actually want to be harming children.
Yeah.
But they might not know that they're doing it. They might think, oh, well, this is what we have to do. So, oh, let's just grit our teeth and get on with it, you know. These are orders from above. Who am I? I mean, how many people are going to stand up and say, I actually don't like this. I don't agree with this. I'm not going to teach this.
Well, you know, like I said, how many people are actually going to stand up and say that? Well, if anyone is going to stand up and say that, it's going to be about something graphic, Joan. They're not going to stand up and say it about something they've been told, safeguards. They're not going to stand up and say it about something that they don't understand the psychological impact on it. They don't understand perpetrators and how perpetrators work. How do they know? They don't know what they are applying is problematic. They don't know that, you know, and they've been told that you're a safeguarder. But if somebody told me I was a safeguarder and I got a certificate to prove it, Joan, it's going to take quite a bit to convince me otherwise, you know. And like John, I've written about this, haven't I? I've written all about this. I've written about teachers as predators, but I've also written about the responsibility placed upon teachers. And Joan was my proofreader. And Joan, what did you get from that, Joan? The way I applied the different layers of expertise and the complexities, the complications. How do you feel? How do you feel that is that fair on a teacher? Do you think?
No, I really don't think it is, because I think they've got enough to think about. They've got enough hoops to jump through and forms to fill in and yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. That kind of workload, the kind of workload that they have is pretty severe, really. And I think it's unfair to expect them to have that level of expertise. I mean, I know at one time that you couldn't teach, what was it called in English? Addysg personal, personal education.
P,
Yeah. I remember in the 90s when I was doing supply that you couldn't teach it unless you'd had some training. But by now, with the RSE is going to be layered through every single strand of the curriculum, isn't it? It's going to be in maths, it's going to be in English. I don't know how they're going to pull it in by the hair, because it's going, I think that what they're going to present to children is going to be boring, absolutely boring, very low standard education. I've seen some of the I've seen a little bit of, say, for example, maths questions that use RSE. I've seen a few examples here and there. I don't know if they were good examples or bad examples. I really don't know. But it's almost laughable that they're bringing in LGBTQ issues into a maths lesson. It just defies the imagination.
Yeah.
So you've got Mr. and Mr. Jones that are running a bath at 10 miles an hour and a car crashes into it or whatever, with these problems that they have with maths. So you've got Mr. and Mr. Jones or Mrs. and Mrs. Jones, or to me it just seems unnecessary. Or counting how many square inches there are in a pride flag, or not square inches. You can tell how old I am. Square centimeters, this kind of thing. But I don't think it's going to make education a better place, a more interesting place for children. I think if they're dragging in examples, for example, another maths lesson I saw, maybe it's outdated by now, I don't know, but they were using drag queens for something or other, I can't remember, and they dragged in do you remember the person who won the Eurovision Song Contest? The Israeli entity that had a beard and a dress.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember who they are.
I can't remember. But there was a picture of them. I suppose I should say them, shouldn't I? Or isn't her? Or I don't know all these. I don't know all these pronouns. Do you? Do you know all these?
Somebody's just asked in the chat and they've said, can teachers even still be called sir or miss? That's interesting, actually. What we've got, Jace, is difficult. We've actually got videos of teachers filming themselves coming out with their pronouns, and that's what they call it. They call it as coming out with their pronouns, and they're there to their class. They're filming themselves, not the children. They just filming themselves in the class. You can hear the children, and they're saying, I'm they, them. And so it's down to personal choice, actually, Jace. It's self-IDing themselves or self-pronouncing themselves. If they want to change their pronouns, they can. Do teachers still be called sir and miss? Yes, they do in general. But on the occasions a teacher chooses to come out with their pronouns, the children then are expected to honour that. So what a confusing environment for children tenfold. And I just want to go back to what you were saying, Joan, about the lesson contents you were talking about. It is current. It's we were given that by Richard Lucas September just gone when we were up in Scotland. That was the end of September. So that had just come in that year, that maths lesson had. But what I think is missing from that, Joan, again, talking about the teachers and them not having time, Joan, they're expected to diagnose conditions in children. Not so much diagnose them as in give them the label. It's their decision whether these children get on the pathway to diagnosis or not. So we're asking these teachers as well to be child psychologists. So there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of failure already there. And but I do notice something. There's a school close to me. Somebody posted something the other day. There's actually a transition teacher in school. So somebody's got the title of transition teacher. So whether that's transition to homosexuality or transition transgender, there are actually teachers in school now with the label of transition teacher. So
in your area, you've had evidence of that in your area, Kim?
Yeah, I think it was posted as a dig, to be honest, directed at me. I think so. I think somebody taken something I posted the wrong way. When I was asking about lesson content, I asked if a child has come out to the age of 6 and then a parent had posted something, and I feel that it might have been a thing of me. But it was a very interesting post, and I'm glad she shared it because now I know what's going on for that. So,
but that's nice.
Otherwise, my kids are homeschooled, so I'm really, it's a nice bit of information there.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick look at these comments here. Then, we got quite a few in here, right? So we've got Lisa in, and we've got Sam in. Evening, ladies. Evening, Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Archant. Jason's in there. We haven't got many in there tonight, Joan, but yes. Right, this is brilliant. Okay, so talking to a survivor earlier, and she agrees with sex education, younger the better, she said. And she's actually a hunter now. Right. So if she agrees with sex education, the younger the better, has she actually read this education? Has she read the frameworks and the policies? Because we do get a few people that will say this. And if that person then takes their own situation and applies it to the documents in hand, they will then discover that according to these documents, what they're experiencing is not abuse, it is sexual pleasure. So this is why we are fighting this, because in a few years, there will be no such thing as child sex abuse. It's just labeled sexual pleasure. The only elements of safeguarding in this are sexual violence. So sex abuse is not violent. It's not always violent. What people need to realize is there's different forms of offenders as well. So a sex offender isn't always a pedophile. A sexual predator is going to be a predator. It doesn't matter whether it's a child or anything. So again, that separates the issue as well. So for people who do think that this is a safeguarding issue, then please, if you come forward and you show me where and how it safeguards compared to how I can show you on each piece of lesson content, every single policy that's in this UK, the failures in the legislation, if you can prove what I'm saying is wrong and a danger to children, then I will pull the plug on this campaign immediately. But while I know this is a danger to children, I'm going hell for leather. And I strongly suggest that survivors, please just look into it. Most survivors understand. But there is one or two who will say this is vital, this is vital. I want to use, so to strengthen my argument here now, in case that person's watching, I want to just use a piece of lesson content as an example. So in England, there was 241 schools who were using a package called All About Me. and it was self-stimulation. So on this piece of this document, it was telling children it's okay to play with yourself. It's just like playing with your hair or picking your nose. It feels good, but just don't do it in a classroom. So we've got teachers now teaching this in a classroom. There are 4 types of children in that classroom. There are those who play with themselves, those who don't, those who have been neglected, and those who are being sexually abused. So what we've now just done, and this in children that small, we're looking at a non-verbal disclosure. So we're looking at them acting out. So, you know, we want to follow this. We want to investigate these things. You know, if it's innocent, fantastic. But if it's not, we need to investigate. What we've now done is we haven't just drawn attention to a whole classroom full of children with their genitals, which all abusers do, by the way. They will always draw attention to genitals or talk about genitals or things like that. They'll always discuss those things, or they will, you know, they'll try to get towards your genitals. So we've done that. The second awful thing we've done here is we have trained the whole class not to do it in the class. We have now told that entire class to not do it in a classroom. So now we've taken those children away from an opportunity of a non-verbal disclosure, and we could have had the opportunity to intervene there. So it's very, very young. This is what I'm proud of for this team. This team isn't just saying that this is graphic. This team, myself personally, Adele strongly as well, we are huge supporters of the need for sex education by way of health and sexual safeguarding. For us to be here saying no, this is huge. This is like the total opposite end of the coin of the way we function. So for us to actually say not for children, we're not saying no sex education. We're saying not this education, and we're saying we know better people who can educate the adults. The way this education's been applied, it's been applied to the wrong people. We put in safeguarding in the hands of 3-year-olds. It's inappropriate. It's risky. It's very, very risky. And like I said, if I thought for 1 second this was safe for children, I would be running it to the Queen myself for her to sign. But it's anything but. And if anybody out there genuinely wants to talk about this, please get my number, get in touch. Honestly, if you want to have a rant, if you think I'm wrong and you want to scream at me down the phone, as long as you're prepared to hear me afterwards, then please get in touch, honestly, because this is not, we want you all on side. We want you to know that we're on your side, and we want you to know that we want the best. We just want the best for the country, full stop. We don't want a nation of adults recovering from their childhood. And this is where we go, and it's a really dark, sick agenda here at play. And this isn't a case of, this isn't safeguarding, is it, Joan?
It's not safeguarding. In fact, I'd go as far as to say, as soon as I saw the syllabus that the WHO had produced, I'd go as far as to say it was grooming.
Yes, it is.
Those are my gut instincts to it, because what they're trying to say is that, well, if you look at the explanation of sexuality, they make it seem as though sexuality is the driving factor in everybody's life, as though it's the fibre of everybody's being, and it's supposed to inform everything that you do, from choosing a cream cake to tying your shoelaces. It's crazy. I mean, how they can put sexuality at the centre of every single thing, every informed choice that you make, is bizarre to me. I mean,
but this is
exactly what Alfred Kinsey did.
Well, this is where they're playing on words as well. And people have said to me, well, you don't think children should know about different sexualities? Go back to the document. Have a look at the document that our government signed up to, World Health Organization 2010. Have a look at that. Have a look next to the word sexuality. If you look at our matrix and you look at the section related to sexuality, there is absolutely nothing throughout that section about relationships. It's about early childhood masturbation, age 0 to 4. Age 4 to 6, use sexual language in a non-offensive way. Again, early childhood masturbation, learn to say yes or no, and about playing doctors. Age 6 to 9, sexual intercourse. What the hell is any of that to do with sexuality? So when people say we're misunderstanding the word sexuality, they need to look at what they are saying comes next to sexuality, because they might use sexuality in a fluffy sentence at the beginning, but when push comes to shove, they are shoving. It's quite a different story when you actually look. So people need to look into these words and don't just take them at face value.
I agree, Kim. And one of the excuses for actually introducing pleasure, I suppose, although they never made that excuse in that particular document, but it's elsewhere. Everyone seems to promote RSE as a good thing because people have concentrated on the negativity of sex and the problems that it can cause rather than on the pleasure. I don't think really, I don't think it's appropriate to talk about that with a 4-year-old child, really. I don't think we have the language, and I don't think the child has the comprehension. No. So I don't, why would we bother? Why would we even bother?
We would only bother if we were perverse.
I think so. I mean, if I've said this to other people. I said, if you overheard a 16-year-old child or a 17-year-old child talking to a 4-year-old child and say, do you know what? It feels nice when you touch yourself down here. What would you think?
Exactly, Joan.
What would you think? But basically, that is what they're asking the teachers to do. It might be in a roundabout way,
but yeah, it's
there in the curriculum. Now, whether the teachers will implement it or not, I don't know. But it's stipulated in the curriculum. Why is it there in the first place?
It's open to interpretation as well, Joan. It's open to interpretation. People can manipulate that any way they want. Do you know, somebody said to me, you're cherry picking this and you're manipulating it. Yes, I am. Of course I am. Because that's what predators do. If predators can find a way in, they're in. How do we safeguard our houses from burglars? We think how burglars would think. How are we going to safeguard our kids from predators? We give them a dildo? What?
Yeah.
We safeguard kids from predators by knowing, understanding, and thinking like predators. There's no other way around it. Time and time again, we use ex-cons to improve our levels of security. So why are we not looking at the perpetrators here, the perpetrators' behavior? Why is there nothing about perpetrators in any single piece of training package in this country, Joni? You tell me.
Yeah, I can't because it doesn't make sense at all.
No, it doesn't make sense.
I entirely agree with you. And I think that by concentrating on pleasure from such a young age, they're dismissing the idea. They don't even really... I think there might be somewhere in the curriculum where they're talking about if you don't like it, you don't have to continue. I don't know what that is supposed to mean.
Well, and that is, if you think about it, Joan, so that is, like I said earlier on the live with Laura, when we're looking at the word paedophile, for us, it's a dirty word, all right? It's a dirty, vile word. But it's not a dirty word for everyone, Joan. For a vast majority of people, it means child love. Child love. Mm. They see it as tenderness. They see it as a genuine way of affection. We are the problem by telling these children they've been abused. We are the problem. So this is what we need to understand here. The only people that call that sexual pleasure in a child is a paedophile. And it's well documented. It's well documented. Tom O'Connell have said it openly in interviews. They've written about it in books. They have written about it themselves. This is sexual pleasure in their eyes. So
Exactly.
the only people that think that are pedophiles. So what the hell are we doing still discussing this shit? Why is it still out there?
I just don't know, because because they're just assuming it's never said. It's never actually said in the curriculum. But you have to assume, judging, especially from the WHO one, that any child who is experiencing pleasure will not associate that with abuse. They won't associate it with abuse, according to the way the curriculum is set up and the wording of the curriculum, and the fact that they actually put so much emphasis on pleasure.
They don't
So
say
the only abuse can come from someone violent, you see, which isn't always the case, is it?
And what does it say in those documents? Someone might appear to be nice, but really they are bad. So, okay then. So what about dad when he comes home from work in a bad mood?
Exactly.
Is he now a child abuser? Because he's just in a bad mood. In the eyes of a child, he's good, but today he's bad. He's in a bad mood. Do you know what I mean? So does that child now think that my father's an abuser? Because the documents are telling me that. Anything that seems bad or a little bit nasty is point blank abuse. Sexual violence is abuse. But if it feels good, is sensual, is soft, it is not abuse. That's what they say in. The only people that reiterate those words are self-confessed pedophiles. I'm not just saying this stuff, I'm repeating it. This stuff didn't just come into my head and out of my mouth. It's gone in through my ears and my eyes, and now it's coming out of my mouth.
Exactly.
And it's written in the documents. So people cannot be mad at us being annoyed.
I'm just surprised that anyone can look at it and not get a bad feeling about it, not feel uncomfortable, not want to start asking more questions.
You described it as grooming, and it is. I described it as a model of offending, right? Because that's what I was reading it from an academic standpoint. I was literally reading a model of offending. A model of offending is, in Joan's words, grooming. It's the process they go through to offend. This is scientifically, proven. So why are they in our education documents? It just doesn't make sense. It does make sense when you know where it comes from, who's saying these things. It makes total sense to us, John, but it doesn't make sense to the everyday person. But they should read it. They should read it, and if you feel a tiny bit uncomfortable about anything, you don't go ahead with it. We're talking about children here. If there's one thing that's not safe, it's like, right, you put the kid in the car seat in the car, right? That car seat is strapped right in, Joan. Perfect. But the bit that comes around the kid, that's not quite right. What do we do? Put some sellotape on and hope for the best?
Yeah.
No, we get a bloody new seat.
Yeah. It's true.
That's it. I just thought people and words I keep hearing all the time. It's not that bad. Not that bad. So are you mean it is a little bit bad then? So how much bad are we allowed to have around these kids? How much bad is really bad? How much bad is not that bad? How much percent? If there's an element of bad or you don't feel right, you scrap it, Joan. We're talking about kids.
Yeah, exactly. And the way I look at it, it's like landmines. I mean, some kids might not step on them. Some kids might come through this education and they might be fine, but others are going to be damaged.
Yeah, 100%.
And the idea is to do no harm through education. That should be one place where you're actually alerting people to harm, alerting people to self-awareness, and alerting people how to protect themselves and how to make the most of their lives, we shouldn't be doing harm in education.
Like, we are harming children. This education has got a lot of harm in it. It does make them vulnerable to predators, right? So it makes them victims, but it can also make predators out of them as well. It can also create predators. So I've got a kid with additional needs who, like, if he's, when he was allowed to go to the shop for the first time on his own, oh my God, every day he was on the couch looking for money. He had to go every day. It's one of those things. If he picked up a new word, he had to say it for 3 weeks, say it for 3 weeks, say, doesn't matter how inappropriate it is, he just had to do that. So you've got kids that's just going to have these urges and they're going to copy things, right? Which puts other kids at risk for a start. Then you've got the ones that's encouraged to search for pornography. They get desensitized to the porn, right? The gratification's not there. They need more and more and more and more and more. Almost every single serious sexual predator on this planet documented has said they were addicted to porn. So if we're encouraging children to search for porn, we're introducing them to porn. There's the introduction, off they go. Where is this going to end? So we haven't just like put kids at risk, further harm of being abused. We've put children 2 generations behind them at harm of being abused by polluting this generation of kids' minds.
Exactly.
That crime starts today. It's not going to be committed for another 20 years. Probably might not even surface for another 40. This isn't something that you think about today, you act on today, consequence today. This isn't that kind of crime. And this isn't that kind of process. And it's so complex. We need to be discussing this like we discuss the weather.
I agree with you. And I think it is so complex because when I was reading your papers, Kim, I can't even recall all the strands that you were pulling in. But everything made sense because we all know from either from our own children or from children in the family or whatever, or from ourselves. We don't have to go any further than ourselves. We know what it felt like to be growing up. Yeah. We know how we tried to comprehend things. We know and we can remember how maybe we got things wrong, but basically, mostly you get a lot right when you're a child, but you just do not have the words to say it. And I think people underestimate children very often because I think they've got all the intellect there, they just haven't got the experience. And they haven't got the words to say it, And it's only in later life that you can actually process harm that was done to you in whatever way.
Yeah.
And like you say, it could be generations before we actually know how much harm this is doing.
And this, you know what, Joan? This is for the first time ever, right? The first time ever, we have a real opportunity to prevent. A genuine, real opportunity to prevent you. And I don't think people understand how impactful that would be in the long term. I think people don't understand how the work we do today just shapes so much of the future. People don't understand that, do they? Is it because it's such a long process and it's such a secretive thing and nobody knows about it, nobody talks about it? What is it? I don't understand. But what I do know is this is a real opportunity, a genuine opportunity to prevent this kind of abuse from occurring. So shouldn't we be just grabbing it by the bollocks?
I think so. I think we should.
100%. This is what people, I don't think people realize. Like, I'm going to be putting a video out. I'm going to be giving a call out to the men that do the 30 sit-ups, push-ups for 30 days for male suicide. How much of that male suicide is through sex abuse, Joan?
We'll never know.
How many people now, right, are going to be like, oh, I did 30 push-ups. I'm going up there. Saved my life. No. The problems in these people began many, many, many years before. You look at the odd few that fall in with the wrong crowd and go down that road, right? But why was it the wrong crowd? What made that crowd the wrong crowd? who in that crowd and where did that come from? Do you know what I mean, Joan? So there's always something there. There is always something there from someone's past that just gives this rippling effect to so many different people's lives. It can cause so much harm in so many ways. It just spirals. But if we can capture that when the kids are young, will there be a lot less wrong crowds? Will there be a lot less damaged adults? Will there be a lot less people out there looking for the quick fix to hide things? We don't know until we try, but my guess is, yeah, we probably would have a lot less of this crap going on if we concentrated on the kids now. And that's where we need to be is now. We're all walking past people in a shop doorway, Joan, looking down at them. I don't care what anyone says, right? Everybody thinks that person at doorway is just a junkie. They don't understand that 9 times out of 10, that person at doorway is a trapped child. How can you help these people? You're not going to help them by doing push-ups. You're not going to help them by sharing your post on Facebook, because the people out there suffering right now, their pain probably comes from decades ago. So let's focus on the next generation then, because the damage in this generation didn't come from us. It came from the people before us. So we need to be working on the generations behind us, not the generation of today. The generation of today is damaged because of the generation of yesterday. Prevention is so much more effective than cure. There's somebody did a post on Facebook yesterday, not yesterday, the day before, absolutely distraught. They work in the homeless field and they had found the person dead. And they just didn't want to continue that job anymore. They didn't know what they had done wrong. And like I said, listen, unless you've got a magic wand and can erase the past, and you chose not to use that wand to erase the past, then you did nothing wrong. Because that person was wronged a long time before you came along. And your job is so difficult because you've got to try and cure these people, which 9 times out of 10, Joan, when they're in that state, it can't be done. But whatever that person's problem is, it came from the past. It came from somebody's past, even if it wasn't their past. Like I said, even if they did fall in with the wrong crowd. It's a great upbringing, the most supportive family. A couple of weeks with the wrong crowd, they've now got a habit. But like I said, why was that crowd the wrong crowd? What was wrong within that crowd? Nobody asks these questions. Nobody searches for the answers. And I think we're expecting too much of the people that's on the streets, the people with these habits, the people that's in a bad way. We're expecting too much of them. Do you know what I mean? To just turn their lives around like that. Because we wasn't there when it first screwed up. Do you know what I mean? We was never there.
I do agree with you so much. And I'm sure a lot of it's a lot of abuse of substances and alcohol and all the rest of it certainly can come from some kind of abuse in childhood. Not always, I'm sure. Not always. But every homeless person, I've spoken to quite a few. And I found some of them to be very lovely, articulate people. I've found some of them to be, there was one that I spoke to. Well, actually, I think he was pretending to be homeless, to be fair to him. But he was doing a really good job. And he got all sorts of poetry tattooed around his neck. I believe he's dead now. And if he wasn't homeless at that stage, he had been homeless at another stage, I think he was just milking the system a bit, But yeah, I've spoken to quite a few of them, and I found them to be much easier to connect with, really, than the average person on the street. You feel as if, I'd love to go out and have a cup of coffee with you and a chat, rather than be standing here on the pavement.
Yeah.
And they've all got some profound stories to tell. And very often it's tragic. Very often it's bereavement as well.
Right, so Coleman, can we have you question the education authorities and teachers to see if they agree with this? Right, so we contacted the National Association of Head Teachers. We've spoken to, our education minister's left her job because of us. Everybody seems to think this is a good idea. I've attended a meeting as well with the Education Authority in a local authority in Wales, where 200 children have been removed from school to be homeschooled, and they are now saying the parents have got mental health problems. I sat in that meeting. I know that guy was sent the evidence. They just got non-answers. This is a case of central government to bring it in, local government apply it. We get local authorities saying, oh, government guidelines, and then we get government saying, can't get involved in local authority decisions. So this is where we're at. They simply do not want to know, or they're scared to know. But our new education minister now, we've let him settle in. He's a new boy. We will be dealing with him soon. But the National Association for Head Teachers as well, they've even wrote about us, making out that we like conspiracy. But, you know, they're not qualified for this job, right? At the end of the day, they're not qualified for this job. They will look down their noses at us and they support this education. But you know what? On that finishing line, we'll show them exactly how qualified they are for this job, because their mistakes today, they will pay for tomorrow. We're not going to forget any of these teachers that's been negligent. We're not going to forget the education department. We certainly, and I've seen you talk about Harriet Hammond in there, she was a child minister. We are certainly not going to be letting the child ministers and the children's commissioner get away with this neither. Because even the children's commissioner in Wales seems to think this is great. But like I said to her, so does the children's commissioner in Ireland. And he's pally with Peter Tatchell. Peter Tatchell thinks it's okay to have sex with 9-year-old boys. I think we've got a problem with our children's ministers. So after the RSE, we'll be back to deal with you. So as it stands now, we don't get much luck with them. They think they're above us. They think they know it all. And at this moment in time, we're letting them crack on while we work on this war. But we are coming back. They won't get away with this. You know, we now know how incompetent our system is. And it is a crime to let them get away with it any further. It would be a crime not to go back and fix it. So although they haven't been very good with us, they've not got away with anything, because we'll never, ever, ever forget their incompetence and their negligence. If we did forget it and did leave them get away with it, we are doing the children a massive disservice, and that's just not going to happen, not in our generation, is it, Joan?
No. No, the children deserve better than this.
They do.
And they can't really stand up with a microphone and start preaching, can they?
No, they can't. Is that what you, like you said earlier, Joan? Children do have this level of intellect, right? But they only know up until now. This very moment in time, this very second, that's all they know is their life up until then. They can't be on the outside looking in, because they haven't had the experience, and it's your experience that shapes how you see things as well. So we have to do it for them. 100%, we have to do it for them.
Very much so. Especially, I mean, we haven't even talked about puberty blockers and sex-changing hormones. Yeah. We haven't even talked about that and the potential in that.
Well, what we've got, we're very lucky, Joan, that we've got Miriam Grossman is going to do 2 presentations for us on the gender. So we will be touching the gender theory, but we're going to be approaching it, obviously, like we always do, with such grace and tactful. But we're going to be having, I want to arrange a full week on that. So I want a full week and a full slot on the gender theory, on what's going on. I want to try and get Stella O'Malley on as well, Miriam Grossman. We want to introduce the evidence to the people in our way, in our form, and jam-packed full of it. So if we just strip it in, a little bit here, a little bit there, but if we just got it all in one section, then it just becomes that section of information, and nobody can say that shapes us then as an organisation either. So we definitely need it as soon as possible. I do know Grace is chasing that up for us. So we're going to be having a full week on that. It's not being ignored. It needs to be addressed. And it's going to be addressed in the right way, John. Scientific, all the evidence, properly.
It needs to be. Yeah. Because it's a very complex area. And it's being made into one of opinion, feeling, etc., but actually nothing to do with science.
No. And we'd be getting Kath on for that as well. I think, to be honest, Joan, I think those shows, you and Kath will probably be chatting the most about it, because you both are well read on that now. You know, you've both so yes, I'm looking forward to that, Joan. It might even go over 2 weeks, to be honest. But I want to get Catherine on it because she's just so clued up. Girls as well, they're reading up on different mental health issues. So that's going to have to be a jam-packed week, guys, and we're going to make that a special week. And so all the information is in one place as well. Then we ain't scrolling through stuff to find stuff. If we get it all in one chunk, I just think that's better for the people to access as well. Then, and if we're using these big names, these people in high places, then it's not just us saying it, is it?
Exactly. That there is research, that there is data out there, and that there is, although there isn't as much data as we need, especially on that particular issue.
No.
I mean, there's not a lot of data on the long-term effects of some of the drugs that they're using on these kids, for example.
Because they're still in trial, really, Joan.
They are.
Still very much in trial, and that's what people don't realise. And like even the studies supporting this kind of thing, when you actually look into them, it might be like studies done on 18 people, or, you know, you need to, just because a study has been done and is peer-reviewed is, if you and I worked in a criminology department somewhere, Joan, and you wrote a paper and I read it, your paper's now peer-reviewed because your friend in the staff room's read it. That's all peer-reviewed means. What you need to do is you need to understand the quality of that paper, funding, who wrote it, agendas, what research they used, the population sample, where did it come from? That's how you know the quality of a piece of work. And this is what we are driving forward now. We're looking for quality work. We haven't got an agenda. We just want to look after our kids. So we will be out there looking for the best answers, the most genuine research. And like I said, the long-term effects, there is not much out there on that. But that's what happens when you're in the middle of a trial, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so right, Joan, we've got just over a minute left. We've done our first show together, love. What do you think?
Wowee. No, it went quite quickly, actually.
I find the hour does go better. We can, like, hour and a half is usually ample. The 2 hours seems to be long, but I think with the workload we got now, we got so many videos to put out on different topics. People are going to be seeing our face so much now. It's just going to have to be short, sharp ones on to keep the momentum going, Joan, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I don't know what else you can do apart from grow your hair and ride naked through the streets of Coventry or something like that.
Oh, don't worry, somebody gave me a row for saying that the other day, Joan. Oh, you're posing as RSE, you tell people to run around naked. Oh, it was a figure of speech, you know what I mean? I was like, oh my God. You can't please everyone. You're never going to please anyone. So
no, absolutely not.
To reiterate, guys, we have 38 days to submit our paperwork to court. The deadline is the 16th of March. Let's do it. If we can do it, that means I can get a day off on the 17th. Because the 17th is actually my birthday, and I'll have the first birthday in 2 years. Well, it'll be 3 years, I'm gonna. So let me have a birthday, guys. Give us the support we need. Get this paperwork in. Raise awareness. Raise some money for us, guys. Raise some funds. If you've got no money, host a coffee morning. Just pull in a fiver. You know, guys, we can do this. Hosting the coffee morning, right? You're spreading the awareness. We will have a pack ready for you soon, guys. Information packs, which will be available on our website. And we'll have some hard copies. So that's just going to be full of evidence. And the approach we're taking with that is, instead of getting people to say that it's not true or whatever, you take that information pack and you tell people to prove it wrong. Okay? So instead of them making you want to prove yourself right, no. You give them the evidence and you tell them to prove it wrong. And when they can't prove it wrong, they have to join. And they, you know, if they don't join, then it's their conscience. Then it's on their conscience. You know what I mean? They are the ones that have to live with it. But all we can do is provide the information, tell people to challenge it. They have to challenge it. We want them to challenge it. We know the government. We want the challenges. We want people to know what's going on, because if they don't know, there's nothing we can do about it, is there? So Lucia's going to be on, guys. You're going to be seeing loads of Lucia from this week on. She's the woman dealing with all the money side of things. I've got a skate-a-thon going. I've done a quick video on that. I'm going to put that onto YouTube probably tomorrow. But if you want details for the skate-a-thon, look at our YouTube channel, PCP Wales. Website, www.publicchildprotectionwales.org. And I think that's it, guys. Yeah, I think that's it. Also, on Sandy, Sandy's been there a couple of times and I haven't quite caught him. Can't leave without saying, Sandy's bringing everyone to Wales the 30th of April for the first ever, I think it'll be probably the first ever child protection thing in Wales for this kind of thing, you know. So that's interesting. Sandy, I have to apologise. Please don't think I'm ignoring you with this event. I am just up to here with my own work. We're working against this deadline. I literally have not got time to concentrate on anything else at this moment other than that. And so please forgive me. I know you're posting stuff on my wall. I do see it. Just haven't got time at this moment. This fight's important. I know you understand that. But as soon as we've finished with this bit now, we'll get behind you. We'll get this advertised. The 30th of April, guys, please come to Wales in support of Sandy and Jane's Unite the UK Warriors. We'll be there. PCP will be there, obviously. And yeah, we're looking forward to that. But in the meantime, 22nd of February, get your backsides to Cardiff. 1 p.m. outside the castle, 2 p.m. outside the Senedd. If you got kids, get them registered for the sponsored walk, and they can get a PCP certificate and medal. So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to sign up for our website. We need manpower now, and we need it more than ever. Stay on the line, Joni. I'm just going to end the broadcast.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Bye now.